launching myself into a corner and jumping onto a couple of sketchy volumes, I feel confident doing it. Why do I think that confidence, if you do it without thinking, you'll do it better and you're less likely to mess it up. And if you don't mess it up, you're not going to get hurt. So if you feel confident with it, that will make it easier. So, okay, let's explore why I feel confident with it and specifically how familiar I've become with this specific type of risk and how that makes me feel confident. So usually the explanation I give them is like, okay, well let's do a breakdown, rough breakdown, because this is all imagined numbers. Let's do a breakdown of the statistical experience that I've had with risks that I've taken. Let's say over my last 2 decades of climbing, I have attempted 1 million different dynamic jumpy moves. Every time I try it, I have the risk that I might fall and break my leg or smash my face on a volume. So let's actually look at what's happened, and you can quickly see why I feel really confident doing it. 1 million attempts, how many times have I successfully pulled off a cool move? Actually, probably not that many. Let's say 10,000 times out of a million. So I think I'm saying 1% success rate?
I would say it's probably more than 10,000 out of a million, but that's all right. You're essentially you're
It
missing
might
your
be.
move a lot.
But yeah, okay, I actually don't think that's unreasonable. I think there are some moves which might take me 100 tries before I land them.
Got it.
There are others that might take a lot less, that's true. But there's also others that I might have tried way more than 100 and never ended up sticking. So okay,
Right.
let's do a rough assessment. A million attempts, only 10,000 successes, 1% success rate. So what's happened the other 90% of the time? Because if I fall off, there's going to be a consequence. I usually divide it as low consequence and high consequence. Low consequence would be, well, I fell off and landed on the mats and nothing happened, or it was scary, but nothing happened. Or maybe I'd say like I bonked my elbow a little bit, or I scraped my shin slightly, but I'm able to try the boulder again within minutes. I would put that as low consequence. And I
Mhm.
don't I am, to be fair, covered in like cuts and scrapes. I think low consequence falls and little cuts and scrapes are the price of learning some cool things. So that's fine. The high consequence falls, which do happen sometimes. I fall and I land badly on my arm, or I land badly and I twist my ankle, or something like that. So yeah, what has happened that other 90% of the time? And actually, yeah, realistically, I look at it going, well, the overwhelming majority of the time, it's a low consequence fall.
All right, y'all, just a quick second here to shout out the sponsor of this video, Rungni. Y'all know Rungni. It's Magnus Mitbo's company. I love everything they make, but I got to tell you about my favorite piece of gear that they produce, and it's the harness utility pants. Oh, look at these things. They're feather light, they are insanely comfortable, and they hold up to all the abuse that I throw at them indoors and out. They even look great when I'm falling all over the place, like I did here recently with Emil. Oh man, Emil looks great in these Rungni pants too, doesn't he? Look, you can get yourself a pair of Rungni pants and score free shipping on an order of pants with code Struggle Pants. That link is right down there for you. All right, let's get back to this conversation.
If I think back on all of those million tries, there might be like maybe like five high consequence ones. I can only actually really remember two. That I'm assuming there must have been more, but I can only genuinely remember two different ones. I remember once I slipped off on a dynamic move right at the top of a competition wall, which wasn't inherently dangerous. Loads of other people had fallen off it. I just happened to slip in a slightly different way, and I twisted my ankle, and it swelled up. And a couple of weeks later, I got back to climbing. That sucked. I didn't like that. And I did notice I learned to be a little bit more scared from that. And I had to rebuild my confidence afterwards and kind of repair my relationship with risk. And I had one other time where, oh no, I've actually done this at least twice. I've done this at least twice. I can think of two now. You know those ones where you do a fast run towards the wall and you're going to jump off a volume. And I did the absolute nightmare of I completely missed it and just ran really hard straight into the wall. And that was, it hurts. And and it's embarrassing as well. It really sucks. Um, but
It's
overall,
literally what I think I'm going to do every time I do one of these every
well, okay.
single
So
time I'm like I'm going face first into this wall.
and overall, I look at that relationship with risk. And I'm like, okay, so 1% of the time I do it successfully. 99.9995% of the time, I mess it up with no consequence. And 0.00005% of the time, it could hurt. But overall, I look at that going like, crazy good odds. Yeah, okay, obviously I'm going to try this. Like, if that was your risk of like an operation or something, something genuinely scary, it's not a risk you'd ever pay attention to. Like you would
Right.
never worry about this stuff. And then I kind of try and get people onto the idea of like what I'm saying is when we get familiar with a certain risk, it stops feeling as risky. Once we actually get a grasp on what is the most likely thing to happen here, as I've done with my own experience of dynamic movement, it stops feeling like a risk. And there are things that I bet people do on a daily basis which are inherently way riskier than the stuff you and I are talking about now. And they're just so familiar with it that it doesn't feel like a risk. And usually the one I point them
Right.
towards is like, well, do you drive a car? Um, that that is more risky already. Crossing the road, going up and down stairs. But if I, and this is also what's tricky sometimes, is someone would say, like, reasonably, they'd say, I tried a dynamic move. I've only tried a couple. I tried one. I slipped. I broke my ankle. I don't want to do it anymore. That seems like a bad relationship with risk. And possibly an unfair analogy, but I'm like, well, okay, as I've just said, if going down the stairs, I've always got the risk of slipping and falling. If I was to slip and fall and break my leg, I hope I wouldn't respond by saying like, oh well, I guess I can never go downstairs again. I would need to learn to I'd need to learn
Right.
to do it again. But that's not to diminish anyone who has had an injury with dynamic movement. I think it's also really unlucky, and it is harder to work on. If I'm saying, well, I've got a million experiences, and overall the relationship I've had is fairly positive. If someone else was to say, well, I've had three experiences, and two-thirds of the time I've fallen off and sprained my ankle, so I've not learned to be confident with this.
Hey, if you like this video, check out what I got going on over on Patreon. I've got over 100 hours of videos and bonus episodes with the absolute biggest names in rock climbing, from Adam Ondra to Magnus Mitbo, Alex Honnold, basically everybody under the sun. They're all right there, and you can watch them for free right now with a 7-day trial.